You think this is funny? The supervisor's voice was tight, thin as a stretched rubber band, and his eyes drilled into me like I just spray painted his mom's car. My blood pressure was doing acrobatics, and all I could think was, seriously, this is happening right now? I'd only stepped into Target to do my neighbor a solid, but here I was, nose to nose with a guy who looked like he hadn't smiled since the dinosaurs roamed, accusing me of what? Child labor interference? Let me back up a minute. I'm Julian, and yeah, I get myself into these kinds of messes. The day started innocent enough with a text from my neighbor, Sarah. Lovely lady, but her organizational skills are about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Her kid, Tank, real name, don't ask, needed picking up from school. Tank's a good kid, maybe 12, but he's got all the confidence of a nervous squirrel eyeing a hawk. He'd rather disappear into his hoodie than make eye contact. Naturally, I said yes. I'm a nice guy. What can I say? As we walked back to my car, my phone buzzed again. Sarah? Hey, Julian, could you grab a few things from Target while you're out? List attached? I glanced at the sun beating down. A C and a little retail therapy? Sure, why not? Tank, bless his heart, just shuffled along, probably relieved to be out of the heat. We hit Target. Now, I pride myself on my internal GPS when it comes to grocery aisles. I can navigate a super Target blindfolded, but as we snaked through the store, a weird pattern started emerging. People, complete strangers, kept stopping Tank. Excuse me, do you know where the organic kale is? Or, hey little man, which aisle has the gluten-free bread? Tank predictably would shrink, his eyes darting frantically between me and the offending shopper. He looked like he was about to spontaneously combust from sheer awkwardness. My good intentions kicked in. Oh, he's just my little brother, I'd chime in smoothly, stepping forward. He's still learning the ropes of our mom's grocery list. What are you looking for? It spared Tank the mortification of having to explain he was just a kid, with me as his reluctant babysitter, and it let me play hero. Plus, I actually knew where the darn kale was. This happened maybe 3 or 4 times. Each time, I'd give Tank a reassuring pat on the shoulder, and he'd give me a grateful, if still terrified, nod. We were finally heading for the checkout, our cart laden with Sarah's weirdly specific requests, mostly organic, gluten-free stuff, go figure when he appeared. The supervisor. He had that weary, I've-seen-it-all look of a retail drone nearing the end of his shift, and he was clearly zeroing in on us. Excuse me, he said, his voice clipped. Is this child supposed to be working right now? And sir, are you interfering with his duties? My brain stalled. Working? What are you talking about? I scoffed. This is Tank. He's my brother. We're just trying to get some shopping done for our mom. I even gave a little, can you believe this guy? Shrugged to Tank, who was now practically glued to my hip, looking like he wanted to phase through the floor. The supervisor's jaw tightened. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. That child is clearly too young to be working, and you're encouraging him to violate company policy and child labor laws. Okay, now I was starting to get annoyed. Child labor laws? He's 12. He's not working. He's my brother and we're shopping. My voice was probably a little louder than strictly necessary, echoing slightly off the high ceilings. Are you serious? You think a 12-year-old is on the Target payroll? Yes, I do, he shot back, not even blinking. We have kids from his school who work here as cart attendants and stockers. And frankly, your presence is clearly distracting him and enabling him to avoid his responsibilities. That was it. My good intentions had officially morphed into righteous indignation. I wasn't just defending Tank, I was defending the very concept of a kid being a kid, and not some exploited mini-employee. Look, I said, putting a firm hand on the cart. I'm a customer. This is my little brother. We're buying groceries. We're leaving. And you, sir, owe us an apology for this ridiculous accusation. I paid for the items, practically slamming my card into the reader. As soon as the transaction finished, I turned back to the supervisor who looked utterly unmoved. You know what? No, this is unacceptable. I want to speak to your manager. Now? Yeah, I pulled a Karen. But in my defense, I was an enraged Karen who was genuinely bewildered and offended. Tank, meanwhile, looked like he'd aged 5 years in the last 5 minutes. The manager, a harried-looking woman named Brenda, eventually arrived. She listened to the supervisor's clipped explanation, then turned to me with an exhausted sigh. "Sir, I apologize for the misunderstanding. We do have issues with kids from the local schools hanging out and sometimes pretending to work, or even trying to help out friends, which we can't allow for liability reasons." Misunderstanding? I practically sputtered. "Your guy accused me of child labor violations. I'm just trying to help this kid out. He gets embarrassed easily. People kept asking him for help, and I just said he was my brother to spare him the awkwardness." I gestured wildly at Tank, who was now actively trying to merge with a display of paper towels. "He's 12. He's too young to even lift half these bags, let alone work here." Brenda ran a hand through her hair. "I understand you had good intentions, sir, but pretending a minor is an employee or is even supposed to be here for work-related reasons causes confusion and genuine problems for us. It's been a very long day." She gave me a weary stare. "Please, just don't do that again. Just let us handle our store operations." I huffed. I was just trying to help Tank avoid embarrassment. He's a good kid. I probably sounded a bit like a broken record, but I felt like I needed to make my point one more time. We finally left the store, Tank practically sprinting ahead once we hit the fresh air. I felt a weird mix of triumph and bewilderment. Triumph because I'd stood my ground. Bewilderment because, seriously? My day of doing a good deed turned into an accusation of child exploitation. It was ridiculous. It was absurd. It was, as I said, a sitcom episode waiting to happen. And I was the star, whether I liked it or not. So yeah, that was my Tuesday. I learned that sometimes even the most well-intentioned fib can land you in hot water, and that some retail workers have seen things. Anyway, hope you guys got a laugh out of it. And next time you see a kid looking lost in an aisle, maybe just point them to the nearest adult. Don't invent a fictional family tree. Live and learn, right?
You've survived 2 Reddit roller coasters. Might as well subscribe before the third wrecks you emotionally.
"Hey, you, give me that dessert right now." The demand, sharp and utterly devoid of anything resembling polite request, slammed into my back harder than any physical blow. 1 second, my sister and I were smugly navigating the plush hallway of a fancy hotel, balancing a ridiculously decadent chocolate lava cake and a box of Wolfgang Puck leftovers. The next, I was pivoting, ready to unleash a carefully practiced, "Excuse me, I don't work here," only to find the woman practically spitting fire. Her face was a roadmap of indignation, framed by a severe blonde bob and narrowed eyes. She looked like she'd just been told the spa was out of cucumber water. "That's my dessert. I saw it. Hand it over, you little sneak." My jaw almost hit the marble floor. My sister Maya, a step behind me, flinched, almost dropping the container of sea bass. We'd been on this epic road trip from California, hitting up Arizona and Nevada, making memories, and apparently enemies over pastries. Our family was still finishing up dinner at the hotel's swanky Wolfgang Puck spot, you know, the kind of place where the breadsticks have an origin story, and Maya and I had been dispatched, like culinary special ops, to retrieve our post-meal treats and some delicious, expensive leftovers from our room. "Excuse me?" I managed, clutching the dessert box closer like it was a hostage. "This is our dessert. It's for our room." She actually scoffed. Scoffed. "Don't you lie to me? I've been waiting for that all night. I told the waiter I wanted it. I'm hungry." She took a step closer, her voice ratcheting up a notch, echoing slightly in the opulent hallway. "Are you deaf?" I said, "Give me my dessert. Do you have any idea who I am?" Oh God, the classic line. My brain immediately fired off a dozen sarcastic retorts, but I managed to bite them back. This lady was utterly unhinged, her eyes practically bugging out. Maya, pale-faced, tugged at my sleeve. "Aubrey, maybe we should just go." "Go where, Maya?" I whispered back, not daring to take my eyes off this human hurricane. "She thinks we stole her cake. What is even happening?" Just as I was mentally preparing to either sprint or defend the molten chocolate with my life, a blessed, calm voice cut through the tension. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" It was our waiter, Marco, looking immaculate in his uniform, holding a tray with a fresh pot of coffee. He'd probably heard the commotion from the restaurant. He took one look at the fuming woman, then at us and our dessert, and his expression subtly shifted, a flicker of tired recognition in his eyes. "Problem?" the woman shrieked, turning her wrath onto him. "These two hoodlums just stole my dessert. The one I ordered? Get it back for me." Marco, bless his soul, didn't even blink. He just gave her a polite, professional smile. "With all due respect, ma'am, I believe there's a misunderstanding. This dessert," he gestured to the box I was still cradling, "is for our guests in room 312. It was ordered for them and brought to their room earlier." The woman's mouth opened and closed a few times. "No, I told my waiter I wanted a chocolate lava cake. That's it." Marco's smile didn't waver, but his voice firmed up just a fraction. "Yes, ma'am, and a fresh one is being prepared for you as we speak. These young ladies," he indicated us with a slight nod, "are retrieving their family's already delivered dessert to enjoy in the restaurant. They haven't taken anything that belongs to you." The realization hit her like a cold splash of water. Her face, which had been bright red with fury, deflated into a shade of mortified pink. Her shoulders slumped. "Oh," she actually looked down at her shoes. "Oh, I see, I'm so sorry. I thought I just really wanted that cake." The sudden switch from snarling banshee to meek apologies was so jarring, Maya and I could only stare. Marco, ever the professional, just nodded. "No worries, ma'am. Your dessert will be out shortly. Perhaps you'd like to wait in the lounge?" She mumbled another apology, her earlier bluster completely gone, and hurried off in the direction of the lounge, practically shrinking into the floor. Marco turned to us, a small, knowing smirk playing on his lips. "Everything all right, ladies? Sorry about that." I managed a weak laugh. "Yeah, Marco, just a little dramatic for dessert retrieval." "Comes with the territory, I suppose," he said, and with another polite nod, continued on his way. As we finally made it back to our table, the chocolate lava cake still intact, Maya and I just burst out laughing. We recounted the whole insane saga, our parents incredulous. "You mean that woman was yelling at you two over a cake she thought was hers?" My dad boomed, dissolving into laughter himself. It was definitely a story for the road trip scrapbook, just another reminder that sometimes the wildest encounters happen when you least expect them, especially when there's an entitled person, a misunderstanding, and a really good piece of cake involved. Until next time, folks, remember, always confirm your dessert order and maybe just don't yell at strangers in hotel hallways. And for the love of all that's holy, tip your servers. They deal with enough.
My window was down, and this woman's face was practically vibrating with fury inches from my ear. "What do you mean you're not picking me up?" she shrieked, her voice echoing a little too loudly in the Walmart parking lot. I swear, the veins in her neck were bulging. I just stared at her, utterly dumbfounded because, well, I'm Julian, and I definitely don't work here, lady. Or, for her. Let me back up a sec. 'Cause this whole thing started subtly, then just kept cranking up the crazy dial. I was just driving into Walmart, minding my own business after a long day, Just needed some groceries. As I pulled past the entrance, I noticed this woman walking out of the store, eyeing my car. Not just a glance, more like a long, assessing look. I didn't think much of it, figured maybe she liked my sweet ride. It's a perfectly normal sedan, by the way. Then, as I was easing into a spot, some bonehead practically cut me off, almost clipping my bumper. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. Seriously, people can't drive. I was still shaking my head, muttering under my breath when she was suddenly there. The same woman, standing by my car, glaring. Not at the idiot who almost hit me, no, at me, like I was the problem. She didn't say anything, just stood there, arms crossed, radiating pure judgment. "What the hell?" I mumbled to myself, trying to shake off the near miss and the weird vibe from her. I decided to just ignore her, get my parking done, and go about my day. But as I pulled out of the spot and started to head towards the entrance, I caught her out of the corner of my eye. She was following me, not like she was walking in the same direction, but like she was trailing my car, her eyes locked on my rear bumper. Okay, this was getting weird. I didn't want to get out of my car while she was still loitering, giving me the death stare. So, like any reasonable person trying to avoid a confrontation with a stranger who's clearly got some issues, I decided to wait her out. I pulled into a different section of the lot, parked, and figured she'd eventually wander off. I even pulled out my forgotten dinner from earlier and started eating, thinking, okay, Julian, she'll get the hint, she'll walk away. This is normal behavior, right? Wrong. So wrong. I'd barely finished half my sandwich when I heard a sharp tap on my passenger window. My head snapped up, and there she was again. Her face was right up against the glass, eyes narrowed. I slowly, hesitantly rolled down the window. And that's when the "what do you mean you're not picking me up" shriek happened. My jaw probably hit the steering wheel. Ma'am, I said, trying to keep my voice even, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not picking anyone up. She threw her hands up in the air like I was the one making 0 sense. But you're my ride. Why are you just sitting here eating? I've been waiting for you. I'm not your ride, I repeated, trying to maintain eye contact without looking terrified. I'm not working right now. I'm just here to shop. Her face went from bewildered rage to something even more unhinged. This is ridiculous. You're clearly just sitting here. Pick me up. I have things to do. I just blinked at her. What do you even say to that? Ma'am, you need to check your app. I'm not the person you're looking for. That sent her over the edge. She let out this frustrated growl, stomped her foot, and then mercifully stormed away, muttering curses under her breath. I sat there for a good 5 minutes, heart still hammering, just processing what the hell had just happened. Why should I have to tell some stranger to check their app? Honestly, the entitlement of some people is just baffling. And seriously, y'all be careful out there? This isn't the first time someone's tried to hop into my car while I'm just waiting for a friend or something. Do people just not care about getting into strangers' cars anymore? Some folks, man, they just shouldn't be allowed in public without a handler or something. Anyway, that's my latest dose of absurdity. Stay safe and sane out there, Reddit. See ya!
This next story is just as wild. Give it a watch.